Hi guys, Mark here. Welcome. Today we're covering a cube with a globe knot. The first supply for our project is going to be a globe knot mandrel. A 4-pin version, so it has a total of 4 columns of pins. Column 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2 sets of rows, one on each side, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. As you can see, pins in rows B, C, D, E, F, G are sticking out of the mandrel. So 3 rows on each side. This is the pin setup. For the cordage, we're going to be using 95 cord. In my case, 19 feet. A lacing needle is extremely helpful for passing your cord through the knot. For the core, I cut a wooden cube with the sides being 1 inch and 1/8 long. Now you can use a smaller cube with sides 1 inch long or a bigger cube with the sides 1 inch and 1/4, everything will work. Let's set up our mandrel, cord, and lacing needle. Grab your cord, fold it in half. For now, we're going to be using half of our cord, so we're going to coil half of it out of the way. Grab the other end, push it through the hole near your first pin, so B1. Attach a lacing needle onto the other end. We are ready to begin our tying. Here is the run list for our knot. We are going to go line by line tying our knot. We begin tying at B1, moving to F3. From F3 to C1, from C1 to G3. From G3, we move to D1, then from D1 to E2. From E2, we pass over under, reaching B4. From B4, we pass under over, reaching F2. From F2, we travel the opposite to our previous strand, so under over. Reaching C4. From C4, we again travel the opposite to our previous strand. Over under, reaching G2. From G2, we pass the opposite to our previous strand, so over under. Reaching D4. From D4, we travel the opposite to our previous strand, so under over. Reaching E1. From E1, we pass over under, over, under over. Reaching B3. From B3, we pass over, under, over 2, under 1. Reaching F1. From F1, we pass the opposite to our previous strand, so under over, under, over under. Reaching C3. From C3, we travel the opposite to our previous strand, under, over, under 2, over 1. Reaching G1. From G1, we again travel the opposite to our previous strand. So at this point, you probably know the sequence. Just travel the opposite to the previous strand. Reaching D3. From D3, we again travel the opposite to our previous strand, reaching E4. From E4, we start over under, continuing over under, over under, over under. Reaching B2. From B2, we pass over under, over under, over, under 2, over 1. So essentially the opposite to this strand here. Reaching F4. From F4, we travel the opposite to our previous strand. Reaching C2. From C2, we travel the opposite to our previous strand, reaching G4. From G4, we again travel the opposite to our previous strand. Reaching D2, we travel the opposite to our previous strand, so opposite to this one, reaching E3. From E3, we do our final pass, traveling the opposite to this strand here, so the previous one. Reaching B1. We place our working hand alongside the standing hand, running our hand a bit deeper into the knot, right next to the standing hand. We then undo our standing hand, so the coil we attach the lacing needle onto the standing hand and follow the working hand through the knot in reverse. doubling up our knot. After doubling up your knot, sink in your screws. Before transferring our knot onto the core, let's identify the spots in the knot which are going to fit onto the corners of the cube. These are going to be the spots. So, triangular shapes underneath 3 of the scallops on each side. This, and this are going to be the spots. So we have our core in the knot. What I like to do is pin the spots onto the cube to keep them in place. After inserting the 8 pins onto the corners, we begin tightening up, starting at one end, going through the knot, removing slack. After 2 passes of tightening, I have enough cord in my working hand for one more pass. I'm going to remove my pins . Then add in my third and final pass. With the third pass worked into the knot, our knot is complete. I would like to sincerely thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you in my future videos as well.